Galactic Accord had stood for 3 centuries, a fragile web of promises and treaties binding countless civilizations. Across countless star systems, it was a peace born not of trust, but of necessity, a truce held together by careful negotiation, mutual suspicion, and the understanding that war would destroy them all. Earth, once a backwater planet ignored by the vast empires, had grown into a cautious but respected player. Its people had endured centuries of isolation and turmoil, only recently stepping onto the galactic stage with a mix of hope and trepidation. The Accord's collapse threatened to pull them back into darkness or launch them into a war unlike any they had ever known. The council chamber on Orvis Prime gleamed with cold light, the symbols of dozens of species hovering in holographic display. Representatives had gathered for what was meant to be a routine session, discussions on trade disputes, border patrols, and cultural exchanges. Instead, what unfolded would shatter the galaxy's uneasy peace. Ambassador Virek of the Jeltari, a slender figure with skin like polished stone, stepped forward to address the assembly. His voice was steady, but his eyes flickered with unease. Esteemed colleagues, the time has come to confront the truth we have long avoided. Our truce is unraveling. The recent acts of sabotage in multiple systems bear the mark of factions unwilling to embrace peace. If we do not act swiftly, the Accord will collapse. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Relary envoy, a tall, elegant figure clad in shimmering robes, raised a hand. We must not jump to accusations. Peace requires patience, and diplomacy remains our strongest tool. Before Virek could respond, the chamber lights flickered. A sharp hiss filled the air as a hidden device detonated near the central dais. Chaos erupted. Shouts in dozens of languages filled the room. Security forces from multiple worlds scrambled to contain the blast. Ambassador Virek slumped, clutching his chest, eyes wide with shock. He had been targeted. The assassin disappeared. Amid the confusion, leaving behind only the unmistakable truth, the Accord had been broken. In the aftermath, the council was thrown into turmoil. Delegates accused each other of conspiracy and betrayal. The delicate balance shattered as old rivalries surfaced, and the looming specter of war darkened every conversation. Far from Orvis Prime, on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. In the halls of power, leaders gathered in emergency session. President Lin May of the United Earth government stood before the assembly, her expression grim. The truce that kept us safe for so long has been broken. We cannot ignore what is happening beyond our skies. Our first priority is the safety of our people. Military commanders nodded, but unease lingered. Earth's forces were strong, but untested against the galaxy's great powers. They had hope to avoid conflict, to prove their value through diplomacy and cooperation. Yet now, with the Accord crumbling, they faced a stark choice: prepare for war or risk being crushed beneath the ambitions of others. In the streets of Earth's capital cities, ordinary people watched the broadcasts with a mixture of fear and determination. Years of conflict and hardship had forged a resilient spirit. Many whispered that humanity had waited too long to be taken seriously, and now the galaxy would learn that Earth was not so easily broken. In secret, factions within Earth's military and intelligence networks began mobilizing, reaching out to sympathetic groups in distant star systems. Alliances were formed quietly, away from public view. The seeds of rebellion and resistance were planted. Back in the stars, the Galactic Council struggled to restore order, but trust was shattered. Ships were ordered to high alert. Patrols increased at borders where once there had been calm. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if the peace would hold or finally break apart into chaos. Amid the uncertainty, one thing became clear: humanity was no longer a bystander. The truce was over, and the galaxy was about to witness a rising force, one forged in adversity and ready to meet the coming storm with unwavering resolve. The shattering of the Galactic Accord sent ripples through every corner of the galaxy. Once peaceful sectors erupted into skirmishes, long-dormant rivalries flared, and entire fleets shifted into combat readiness. Among the chaos, humanity found itself at a crossroads, no longer the quiet newcomer, but a player whose every move would be watched closely. Earth's leaders convened in the fortified chamber of the United Earth government's command hub. The room buzzed with urgency. General Amara Kincaid stood before the gathered council members, her gaze sharp and unwavering. "The peace is gone," she said. "Our intelligence reports confirm that multiple factions have restarted. Hostilities across the rim and the outer sectors. They test us, probing for weakness. We must respond." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Many had hoped diplomacy could still prevail, but recent events made that hope tenuous at best. On the other side of the room, Captain Malik Farouk leaned forward. A veteran of Earth's special operations and a voice for pragmatism, he spoke. Clearly, we have one advantage, innovation. We've studied the technology of the alien factions and integrated it with our own. We can create weapons and defenses faster than they expect. His words sparked a spark of hope. Yet not everyone agreed. Across Earth, underground movements stirred. The New Dawn Collective, a group once dismissed as radicals, pushed harder for an offensive strategy. The leader, a charismatic figure known only as Kellen, broadcast messages to their followers. Diplomacy is dead. We've been patient. The patient. Now it is time for humanity to rise, to claim respect through strength. Their message resonated with many who had lost loved ones in recent border skirmishes. The calls for bold action grew louder, and the government found itself walking a fine line between control and chaos. Meanwhile, deep in Earth's orbital shipyards, engineers and scientists worked around the clock. Ships were refitted with hybrid technology, alien energy shields paired with human-made propulsion systems that prioritized speed and maneuverability. New drone swarms, inspired by insect-like coordination, were tested for reconnaissance and defense. In the shadowed corners of the galaxy, news of Earth's rapid militarization spread. Some factions viewed this with concern, others with grudging respect. The Drathan Syndicate, a mercenary group notorious for ruthless efficiency, saw opportunity. Their leader, Vorik, reached out through encrypted channels. We could be valuable allies. Vorik offered an encrypted message to Earth's intelligence division. Your enemies underestimate you. We do not. The offer was suspicious but tempting. Back on Earth, the people prepared for uncertainty. Cities reinforced, civilian militias trained, and communication networks secured. Humanity's resilience was tested not just on the battlefield, but within hearts and minds. In a quiet moment, General Kincaid met with Captain Farouk in the command center. How long do you think we can hold back before the next strike? She asked. Farouk's eyes were steady. Not long, but when we strike back, we do so on our terms. We make them remember what it means to challenge Earth. Beyond the solar system, fleets move with purpose. The galaxy's great powers edged closer to war, but the wild card was humanity, unpredictable, determined, and rapidly evolving. As tensions mounted, whispers of rebellion and resistance reached Earth from the outer sectors. Some alien enclaves, oppressed by the same empires now tearing at the Accord, sought contact. A fragile web of alliances began to form, threads woven from desperation and hope. The embers of defiance glowed brighter. And as the galaxy teetered on the edge of war, humanity prepared to rise not just as survivors, but as a force to be reckoned with. The distant human colony on Vesper 9 had always been a quiet outpost, far from Earth's bustling core worlds. It was a small settlement, built to monitor trade routes and gather scientific data on the fringe of known space. Its people lived under the steady hum of starship activity and the slow, patient rhythm of exploration. But on this day, the calm shattered. A sudden, unprovoked attack struck the colony just before dawn. Alien warships, sleek and silent, emerged from hyperspace and unleashed a barrage of plasma fire. Defense turrets sputtered under the assault, and the settlement's communication arrays were disabled within minutes. The settlers scrambled to shelters as explosions lit the skies. Panic rippled through the community as the attackers began boarding the colony's key facilities. The invaders moved swiftly and with ruthless precision, their goal clear: to cripple humanity's presence on the outskirts. Back on Earth, the news arrived with grim finality. In the war room beneath the capital city, Earth's leaders gathered around a vast holographic display showing the attack in real time. Ambassador Alara Moan, now a prominent figure in Earth's political landscape, listened as reports flooded in. The Vesper 9 colony is under siege. General Amara Kincaid's voice was sharp. Casualties are mounting, communications are down, but emergency distress signals indicate heavy fighting. For months, Earth had held back, seeking diplomatic solutions and attempting to avoid full-scale conflict. But this strike changed everything. President Lin May's face was solemn as she addressed the council. This attack cannot go unanswered. The message is clear: we are no longer to be ignored, no longer to be pushed aside. Within hours, the United Earth government authorized a counter-strike operation, precise, swift, and calculated. The mission was to cripple the enemy's key military outpost in the nearby Goran system. a strategic hub used to launch raids into human space. Lieutenant Commander Jamal Reeves, a skilled pilot with a reputation for cool under fire, was chosen to lead the strike team. His squadron, flying the newly upgraded Falcon fighters, was equipped with advanced stealth systems and enhanced weaponry developed from alien tech. Scavenged in past skirmishes. As the Falcon soared toward Gorin, Jamal's thoughts were clear. This was humanity's first real declaration. The message needed to be unmistakable. We're not victims, we're fighters, he reminded his squadron over comms. The attack on Gorin was precise. Jamal's team infiltrated enemy defenses under the cloak of advanced stealth technology, hitting power grids, missile launchers, and command centers. Their strikes disrupted the enemy's ability to wage war and sent a powerful signal across the stars. Back at Earth, the world watched the broadcast with a mix of fear and pride. The images of the Falcons striking deep into enemy territory were unlike anything humanity had seen before. They were no longer the passive observers. They were combatants who could hold their own. Among the council, debates raged. Some feared escalation would bring full-scale war. Others believed this was the only path to survival and respect. Kellen, the leader of the New Dawn Collective, seized the moment. His broadcast to Earth's population called for unity and strength. This is the turning point. Humanity will not be bowed by violence. We rise with rage, but with purpose. Even in the face of rising tension, cracks appeared within Earth's own ranks. Some called for restraint, warning against becoming what they fought against. The emotional toll was heavy, but the resolve was clear. Meanwhile, alien factions took note. The shock of Earth's swift retaliation spread like wildfire. Rumors circulated of secret meetings, of long-standing rivals reconsidering their positions in light of humanity's newfound ferocity. On Vesper 9, survivors regrouped, rallying with fresh determination. The colony, though scarred, remained a symbol of resilience, a reminder that humanity's frontier was not easily taken. The first strike had shattered the illusion that Earth was weak or isolated. It had announced a new era, an era where humanity would not just survive the storm, but stand at its center. And as the galaxy held its breath, watching what would come next, Earth prepared for the fight to come, sharpened, determined, and rising in rage. The galaxy's fragile balance had been shattered, and with each passing day, the once solid alliances began to fracture like cracked glass. The shock of Earth's bold retaliation set ripples not only through enemy fleets, but through the ranks of the alien coalitions that had long ruled the stars. As humanity grew stronger, doubts and fears festered among allies and enemies alike. At the heart of the turmoil was the Galactic Council, still reeling from the collapse of the Accord. Delegates from multiple species gathered once more on Orvis Prime, this time in a tense emergency session meant to patch together the fragments of unity. But instead of reconciliation, suspicion hung heavy in the air. Ambassador Thalkra of the Zyrene, a proud warrior race known for their unwavering loyalty, slammed a clawed fist on the table. Earth's actions have upset the balance. Their rise threatens us all. We must unite against this unpredictable force before it's too late. Opposite him, Ambassador Taliran of the Verdani, a race of diplomats and scholars, raised a calming hand. Violence breeds violence. We must seek understanding, not destruction. The humans fight because they fear exclusion. Perhaps we have underestimated them. The debate was fierce, but beneath the surface, alliances began to splinter. Some races, long oppressed by dominant factions, quietly reached out to Earth, seeing in humanity a potential ally against old tyrannies. Others, however, doubled down on their old grudges, preparing for total war. Back on Earth, the fractures in alien politics presented both danger and opportunity. Intelligence officers intercepted encrypted communications revealing secret negotiations between disgruntled factions, and Earth's military command began exploring ways to leverage these divisions. General Amara Kincaid gathered her advisors in a secure war room. The enemy is not a single entity, she said. They are fractured and divided. We must exploit that. We cannot face them all at once, but we can weaken their unity. Captain Malik Farouk nodded. We have allies in unexpected places. Some rebel groups in neutral worlds are willing to support us if we prove we can stand strong. Among these unexpected allies was a faction known as the Cyrilites, an advanced but secretive species from the shadowy fringes of the galaxy. Their technology and knowledge of the ancient stellar roots promised strategic advantages. Ambassador Alara Moan worked tirelessly to build diplomatic bridges, hosting covert meetings with representatives from these fringe factions. Her message was clear. Humanity saw cooperation, not domination, but diplomacy had its limits. In the war-torn sectors, mistrust bred violence. Skirmishes erupted along contested borders where once peaceful negotiations had taken place. Human scouts reported increasingly aggressive patrols by enemy ships, signaling that the peace was far from restored. The Drathan Syndicate, the mercenaries allied with Earth, proved to be unpredictable. Vorik, their enigmatic leader, pushed for more ruthless tactics, urging Earth's commanders to strike harder and faster. His presence was both a boon and a liability. His forces were effective, but not easily controlled. In response, General Kincaid established tighter oversight. Wary of letting desperation lead to reckless choices amid these tensions, a shocking revelation emerged. A high-ranking member of the Galactic Council had been secretly supplying weapons to the enemy factions in exchange for personal gain. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Council, deepening mistrust and complicating efforts at unity. Earth's intelligence services moved swiftly to expose the traitor. BROADCASTING proof across multiple star systems. The scandal further eroded confidence in the Council's authority and emboldened those pushing for more aggressive actions. As political alliances crumbled, the battlefield grew ever more chaotic. Battles were no longer fought just for territory, but for influence, for survival, and for the future of entire civilizations. On Earth, the populace braced for what was to come. Propaganda campaigns balanced messages of resilience and warning. Leaders reminded citizens that the cracks in the alliance meant more than just political shifts. They meant the galaxy's peace was on the brink of total collapse. Amid the uncertainty, a new rallying cry took hold. Humanity was no longer merely defending its home, it was becoming a beacon of hope for those trapped under the shadows of galactic tyranny. And in the face of fracture and chaos, the question remained, could the galaxy find a new unity, or would the cracks swallow them all? As the cracks in the Galactic Council deepened and the embers of war smoldered across the stars, another force began to stir in the shadows: rebellion across multiple systems. Oppressed worlds and marginalized species long denied voice and freedom found inspiration in humanity's defiance. The spark of resistance spread like wildfire, igniting hopes for a new order. On the distant planet of Terrelisfor, deep within the outer sectors, a secret meeting convened. Leaders of various insurgent groups gathered under the veil of night, their faces illuminated only by the flickering lights of worn holographic maps. A slender figure stepped forward, her eyes fierce and determined. She was Leora Vec, once a diplomat for her people, but now a revolutionary leader fighting against the tyranny of the dominant empires. We stand on the edge of history, Leora proclaimed. For too long, our voices were silenced. Now, with humanity rising, we have a chance to reshape the galaxy. We must act. Her words struck a chord. The oppressed across many star systems felt the same victims of an old order that had grown corrupt and cruel. Humanity's bold stance had become a beacon, proof that even the smallest worlds could challenge the mighty. Back on Earth, intelligence intercepted chatter about the growing insurgency. President Lin May understood the significance. This is more than a conflict between fleets, she said. It's a battle for the soul of the galaxy. General Amara Kincaid authorized the formation of specialized liaison teams. Their mission was to contact these rebel factions, offering support, training, and supplies. Earth was determined to build a coalition not just of planets, but of ideals. Meanwhile, Captain Malik Farouk led covert operations to assist rebel forces. His squads trained guerrilla fighters, shared technology, and coordinated strikes against enemy supply lines. But rebellion was a double-edged sword. The empires fought back with brutal force, often targeting civilian populations to crush dissent. Reports of massacres and scorched planets spread fear, but also stilled resolve. Amid the chaos, a new threat emerged: extremist factions within the rebellion itself. These groups, fueled by rage and desperation, sought not just freedom, but revenge, often targeting innocent bystanders and destabilizing the fragile alliances. Forming among resistance movements, Earth's leadership grappled with these complexities. Ambassador Alara Moan addressed the United Earth government, urging caution and unity. We must be the light in this darkness, she said. Supporting freedom does not mean embracing chaos. We must guide these movements with wisdom and restraint. As tensions escalated, the fires of rebellion grew brighter. Skirmishes erupted across multiple star systems, from the dense asteroid belts of Varda to the sprawling cities of Calyx Prime. Each victory for the rebels sent shockwaves through the empires, while every brutal crackdown only fueled further. Unrest dot in a daring raid near the capital of the oppressive Harlan Empire. Human and rebel forces destroyed a critical weapons depot, crippling the Empire's capacity for immediate retaliation. News of the victory galvanized supporters across the galaxy. It was proof that unity even among unlikely allies could change the course of history. But the path forward remained perilous. The empires would not surrender easily. They had vast fleets, centuries of experience, and deep-rooted power. The rebellion's success depended on maintaining fragile alliances and avoiding descent into chaos. On Earth, a quiet sense of determination settled over the population. They had witnessed their world evolve from isolation to defiance, from fear to fierce resolve. Humanity was no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for a future where freedom and justice might finally take root across the stars. And as the fires of rebellion burned ever brighter, the galaxy watched and waited to see if this new dawn could withstand a coming storm. The galaxy trembled under the weight of war, and nowhere was this more apparent than at the shattered remnants of the Galactic Council on Orvis Prime. The once mighty seat of diplomacy now resembled a war zone, its marble halls scarred by bombardments and betrayal. The hope for peace seemed a distant memory, replaced by desperate attempts to salvage what little remained. Ambassador Elara Moan stood before the fractured council, her voice steady despite the turmoil. We have lost the accord, and with it, the unity that held us together. But surrender is not an option. If we fracture completely, all will be consumed by chaos. Her words were met with silence, some out of respect, others out of bitterness. The factions were too deeply divided. The Zyrene pressed for immediate war, the Verdani called for renewed diplomacy, and countless smaller powers veered toward self-preservation above all else. Meanwhile, on the front lines, Earth's forces felt the strain of relentless conflict. Supply lines were stretched thin, and the enemy's tactics grew ever more brutal. Captain Malik Farouk, battle-worn but unyielding, led a patrol deep in contested space when they encountered a fleet unlike any they had faced before. Sleek, shadowy vessels moved with eerie coordination, cloaking technology so advanced it rendered them nearly invisible. These were the Nixari, a secretive and ruthless species previously unknown to Earth. Their arrival marked a new level of danger we underestimated. What lurked beyond our maps? Farouk reported. The galaxy is wider and darker than we thought. Earth's intelligence scrambled to learn more about the Nixari. Their ships struck swiftly and vanished without a trace, leaving destruction in their wake. Entire colonies went silent. After encounters, fueling fear and uncertainty, the arrival of the Nixari forced uneasy alliances to form even among Earth's enemies. Old rivals united briefly to resist this new threat, but the trust was fragile. Back on Earth, General Amara Kincaid convened an emergency council. We cannot fight the galaxy's divisions if a greater darkness consumes us all, she warned. We must prioritize survival over pride. In response, the United Earth government authorized Operation Horizon, a bold strategy to establish a secure zone around critical systems, protecting colonies and supply routes while seeking to uncover the Nixari's weaknesses. The operation was costly. Battles raged in asteroid fields, ruined cities, and orbital stations. Human ingenuity and alien technology combined to push back the invaders. But losses mounted. In one pivotal engagement near the Rylos Belt, Captain Farouk's squadron used newly developed sensor rays to detect Nixari cloak vessels. The battle was fierce, with fighters darting through asteroid storms, but human pilots prevailed, forcing the Nixari to retreat. The victory was bittersweet. It bought time, but did not end the threat. Meanwhile, political tension back on Orvis Prime boiled over. The Galactic Council's inability to present a unified front fractured further as dissenting factions walked away, some openly declaring their own agendas. Ambassador Moan's diplomatic efforts were relentless, reaching out to rebel leaders, mercenaries, and alien sympathizers alike. The web of alliances grew complex and fragile within Earth's own borders. Debates raged over the cost of war. Public opinion was divided. Some called for total mobilization. Others pleaded for peace at any price. President Lin may face these pressures with quiet resolve. Our fight is not for conquest, but for the future of all who seek freedom and peace, she declared in a rare broadcast. As the galaxy's horizon fractured into 1,000 pieces, Humanity stood at the crossroads. The choices made in these dark days would shape not just the outcome of the war, but the fate of countless civilizations. The shattered horizon was both a warning and a challenge. Could humanity and its allies forge unity from chaos, or would the darkness consume them all? The war had stretched across the stars, testing every ounce of humanity's strength, resilience, and resolve. The galaxy had been torn apart by shattered alliances, shadowy enemies, and the relentless fires of rebellion. Now, as the dust settled over battle-scarred worlds, a fragile hope began to take shape, one that promised a new beginning. Earth's forces, alongside their diverse allies, launched a decisive campaign to confront the Nixari threat head-on. Using intelligence gathered from years of skirmishes, they struck at the heart of the Nixari command nexus hidden within the uncharted Nebula Vexus. Captain Malik Farouk led the strike fleet with a mix of determination and tempered caution. The battle was fierce and unforgiving. Nixari vessels, cloaked in near invisibility, struck like shadows, but Earth's pilots, backed by advanced sensors and unyielding spirit, held the line. After hours of relentless combat, the Nixari flagship was disabled. A coordinated boarding team breached the enemy vessel, uncovering startling truths. The Nixari were not conquerors driven by greed, but a desperate people fighting for survival. From a dying star system, their attacks, brutal as they were, stemmed from fear and desperation rather than malice. This revelation rippled through the galaxy, shaking long-held assumptions. Ambassador Elara Mo spearheaded new talks, this time not just between governments, but with rebel factions, mercenary groups, and the very Nixari survivors themselves. The Galactic Council, though diminished, reconvened with renewed purpose. The harsh lessons of war had opened eyes to the cost of division. Old grudges softened under the weight of shared loss and a desire to build a future. Without endless conflict, Earth emerged as a reluctant leader, a symbol of both the fury of resistance and the hope of unity. President Lin May addressed the galaxy in a historic broadcast, her voice steady and hopeful. The war has shown us the depths of our strength and the heights we can reach when we stand together. We face a new horizon, not one conquest, but a cooperation. Together, we can build a galaxy where every voice is heard, every culture respected, and peace is not just a dream, but a reality. As reconstruction began across devastated systems, the new order took shape. The Galactic Council evolved into a more inclusive assembly, welcoming representatives from rebel factions, marginalized species, and even the Nixari. Humanity's journey from a planet viewed as insignificant to a beacon of hope became legend. The rage that once fueled war was tempered by wisdom, forged in the fires of hardship. On Earth, streets once filled with fear and uncertainty now buzzed with cautious optimism. People celebrated not just victory, but survival and the chance to rebuild stronger. General Amara Kincaid, reflecting on the long road traveled, said simply, "We fought not because we wanted war, but because we refused to accept a galaxy that left us behind. Now, we fight for something greater, a future worth living." Captain Malik Farouk, standing beside his comrades, looked to the stars with quiet determination. "The fight isn't over," he said, "but now, it's a fight for peace." The dawn of a new order was not perfect. Old wounds remained, and the scars of war would take time to heal. But for the first time in generations, the galaxy dared to hope. As humanity and its allies moved forward, they carried a lesson etched deep in their hearts. Strength without compassion was hollow. A unity without understanding was fragile. Together, they faced the future not as divided factions, but as a community bound by shared struggle and a vision of a better tomorrow. The truce had ended. The galaxy had held its breath. Now, humanity had risen not just in rage, but in hope. The war had pushed humanity and the galaxy to the brink. Countless worlds lay in ruin. Alliances had shattered, and fear had bred hatred in the hearts of many. Yet amid the chaos, a fragile light emerged, a chance for a new beginning. Earth's forces, battle-hardened and resolute, prepared for what might be the final campaign. Intelligence reports pointed to the hidden core of the Nixari command, concealed deep within the Nebula Vexus, a swirling expanse of cosmic storms and shadow gas clouds that defied sensors. Captain Malik Farouk stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, his gaze fixed on the stars ahead. "This is it," he said quietly. "We end this now." The fleet moved forward, weaving through the nebula's treacherous storms. The Nixari struck with their usual deadly precision, ships emerging from cloaked positions to launch surprise attacks. Human pilots dodged blasts, and debris. Relying on years of experience and new sensor arrays designed to counter the Nexari's stealth technology, the battle was brutal. The Resolute took heavy fire, but the combined fleet held firm. Finally, after hours of fierce fighting, the Nexari flagship was crippled. Boarding teams swiftly deployed, breaching the enemy vessel to confront its leaders inside. The truth came into sharp focus. The Nexari were not the warmongers the galaxy had feared. They were a dying people, fleeing a star system consumed by collapse. Their attacks had been desperate acts of survival, not conquest. Ambassador Alaramon moved swiftly to open dialogue. We must choose understanding over vengeance. She urged the Galactic Council. Only through cooperation can we prevent further destruction. The revelation reshaped the political landscape. The Galactic Council, fractured but determined, reconvened with a renewed sense of purpose. Old grudges softened as members recognized the cost of their divisions. Rebel factions, mercenary groups, and even former enemies sought common ground. Humanity, once dismissed as insignificant, stood at the forefront of this new alliance. Their journey from defiant survivors to reluctant leaders had become a beacon of hope. President Lin May addressed the galaxy in a broadcast that echoed across star systems. This war has tested us all. We have seen the darkness within ourselves and the universe. Now, we choose a different path toward unity, respect, and peace together. We will build a galaxy where every voice matters. Reconstruction. Efforts began on devastated worlds, with Earth coordinating relief and rebuilding missions. New treaties emphasized inclusion, cultural respect, and shared governance. The Galactic Council transformed into a more representative assembly, welcoming voices from once marginalized groups, rebel leaders, and even the Nexari on Earth. Streets that had echoed with fear and tension now buzzed with cautious optimism. Citizens celebrated survival and the promise of a future free from tyranny and endless conflict. General Amara Kincaid, reflecting on the long road from conflict to peace, said, "We fought because we would not accept a galaxy that left us behind. Now, we fight for a future where no one is left behind." Captain Malik Farouk, standing with his comrades beneath the stars, spoke quietly. "The battle isn't over, not really. But this fight is different. It's for peace, for hope, for the galaxy's future." The dawn of a new order was imperfect and fragile. Old wounds remained, and scars ran deep. But for the first time in generations, the galaxy dared to hope. Humanity and its allies understood that strength without compassion was hollow. A unity without understanding was fragile. Together, they faced the uncertain future not as fractured factions, but as a community forged by shared struggle and a vision for a better tomorrow. The truce had ended. The galaxy had held its breath. Now, humanity had risen not only in rage, but in hope.